Hello, folks. Welcome to Rational Science, the only site on the internet that does physics. Everybody else does descriptions, which means mathematics, as I call it. Mathematics. They do equations and move concepts around. So we have a difference in this channel from everybody else on the planet because we follow a different scientific method. Here's a summary just so you come up to speed. Okay, let's see if I can put this up here. This is the standard scientific method that we have today. That's the one they teach you in high school and in college. You observe, you make a prediction, you run some kind of experiment, measure, you can make a prediction as well, right there. Collect data for evidence, describe with an equation, discover a novel behavior, and then you present the evidence to the powers that be, which are your buddies, your colleagues. They vote. There's some kind of result they call knowledge, and you repeat the process to confirm the knowledge, that everything was done properly. You check all the dot all the X's, I'm sorry, dot all the I's and cross all the T's, so to speak. And then you invent a new gadget that proves the theory. Apparently, computers prove quantum, they say, okay? And then you award a prize to certify knowledge. You give them a Nobel Prize, and now the guy has certified knowledge. We throw all this in the trash can. We say, oh, that's a method of research and persuasion. None of it has anything at all to do with science. What does science do? Science, we have to explain a theory rationally to another human being. Okay? It could be to yourself, by the way. You could be talking in the mirror, no problem. You want to make sure you can explain it to someone else, or you first explain it to yourself. First thing you do in physics, as far as physics is concerned, you present the objects. What objects are going to be moving in your movie, in the one where you allegedly are going to explain some phenomenon of nature? You have to have objects. Without objects, you cannot do physics. And that golden principle, as I call it, no one has understood it or discovered it in thousands of years. Definitions, you have to define your terms. And mathematicians don't like to define their terms because they don't want to be tied to a given definition because it might be destroyed. So they either don't define or define loosely or define a word in 10 different ways so they can use it in different ways. In other words, they cover all the bases. No, in science we have one definition per word so we can follow the presentation. And then, you present the initial scene, could be the first few frames, so that you can present the foundation of your theory, what you're going to try to explain, essentially. And then you explain it. That's the theory. And so we have a different scientific method than everybody else. Everybody essentially does mathematics. And I'll tell you something, the reason we ended up with this notion of the scientific method or science, right, is because the mathematicians were in charge throughout all these years. Ever since Plato, at least, you would say. But for sure, 400 years ago, with the so-called scientific revolution, what happened was the mathematicians took over. And the mathematicians are all religious people. They're all people who move concepts around. Okay, and so that's very scary. And so what they've done is they created words that have no place in science. Terms of religion, I call them. Words such as energy and field and wave. Those words are not part of science. They can't be used as physical objects, which is exactly how the mathematicians use them to provide a physical interpretation to phenomena. And that's where we draw the line. We say physics, you need to use objects, and so the first word you need to define is the word object. If you cannot define the word object or don't understand what the word object means and all the implications it has, well, you're not doing physics.